I want you to change your mindset because a lot of you live in a deficit. It is not your identity. It is a tool. It is a tool that is used at the right time for the right reasons with an intention to be more restrictive, compromise more, plan the shit out of your life, get in it and out of it as soon as you can. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I'm so excited that you took some time for yourself to learn something for your health. You should feel very proud of that today. And today we're talking about the different phases of change. What are the different ways that we change our bodies and what does that look like? This is a topic that we talk about here, and obviously we see a lot on social media, but I always think it's important for people to understand that there are going to be different phases of dieting, health goals, things like that, that are progress in very many different ways. Most women think that progress means being in a calorie deficit forever and never, never. So I posted this the other day. It said, if your calorie deficit becomes your new normal, you've likely stopped seeing progress and need to reverse diet. Dieting for fat loss is not meant to be sustainable, right? Because what we know is like real transformation comes from understanding how to move between the phases. Maintenance, reverse dieting, deficit, but also surplus, right? Doing that with confidence, doing it with intention is incredibly important. So in this episode, we'll unpack the science, of course, behind each phase, the mindset shifts required, and how to implement them without falling into kind of the all or nothing cycle, or what I see is the fear, the unknown versus known cycle, we should say. Okay, so you're not meant to live in one phase, as I've said. You don't grow by grinding harder. You grow by knowing what season that you're in. The human body is incredibly adaptive, right? It downshifts or ramps up metabolism depending on the energy intake, training volume, stress, and recovery. So each phase that we're talking about serves a unique purpose. The deficit is intentional fat loss, very important there. Your maintenance is where we bring a metabolic balance or homeostasis, as we call it. The reverse diet is recovering from that deficit and recalibrating to get to maintenance. And your surplus is growth and strength building. Okay. The problem is that most women live in that deficit for an incredibly long time. And they will be in a fat loss phase for months to over a year. And the problem with that is, number one, again, the body adapts to that. And it doesn't have this kind of rhythm of going through these different phases. So what ends up happening is you will plateau, right? You will not see results over this year. You maybe see like 7 pounds of weight loss over a course of a year. You will be devastated. You will feel exhausted mentally because you think that you're in a deficit, but you're not, because it's very hard to sustain a deficit for that long of a time, especially when the body is adapting to the deficit. So whether it's behavioral and you're literally so tired of being in the deficit that you start having bites, licks, and tastes, you start to not track on the scale, you start to get really like loosey-goosey with your behaviors, or you're doing all those things, but you've been doing them for so long and you're not adapting or creating that rhythm that you stop seeing results, right? And it's mentally exhausting. So Not only do we want to be metabolically sound and hormonally sound, we want to also be mentally resilient when it comes to our health and wellness. And so what we're going to walk through is each phase. We're going to talk about what it is scientifically, but then also what does the mind do in those phases, which is important. Okay, so we'll start with the one that y'all know. And this is usually the one you start with, which actually in my program, you're not going to start with this, but I'm going to talk about it, which is the deficit or fat loss phase. So this is a short, what did I say? Short, focused period of eating below maintenance to lose fat while preserving muscle. For some of you, it's not that last part. It's not preserving muscle. You just want to lose weight, which no, we don't want to do that. Okay. So the idea is the law of thermogenesis the law of thermodynamics, that you have this calories in versus calories out, right? So the calories in a deficit need to be lower than the calories out. So we create that deficit, right? We create a deficit. So say that I normally on a daily basis am burning 2,000 calories. I would then need to reduce my intake by 500 calories in order to lose 1 pound of weight loss per day. So energy intake is less than energy output, so that then the body uses stored fat as its unit of fuel. Now, for some of you, your body is so low muscled that it does not use its fat for fuel. It uses carbs for fuel. So there is a part of what we're going to talk about that also helps to reverse that and create a balance between using carbs and fats for fuel. Hormones like leptin, which is the hormone that says that you're full, and your thyroid actually dysregulate or downregulate, I should say, over time, because your body is going into a famine, right? It's saying we're not getting enough food. So leptin is decreasing by saying we're not full yet, because it wants to get as much energy in as possible, right? The same with the thyroid. Hormonally, shifts start happening because we're not getting in as much energy as we need, and our food helps us at a cellular level and a hormonal level. It's what fuels us, right? So if we're not getting enough in, our body begins to adapt. The other thing too is when we're in a famine phase or deficit, in this case, cortisol rises, because being in a deficit, especially as a woman, is considered a very stressed state. Your body is always looking to protect your brain and your heart, but also to ensure that it is safe to reproduce as women. And when you're not getting in enough calories as what you're putting out, it considers it a stress. So cortisol will rise. The problem with this is when we're in these really extended deficits, our metabolism will slow down. Not only because of the things I just talked about, but because as you become a smaller person, your basal metabolic rate or your resting metabolism decreases. You need less energy in a smaller body. And for some people, they won't make the adjustments that they need to make to their deficit in order to keep seeing results, which again, we're going to talk about. The other problem too is, again, we're in that famine state. So not only are we not feeling full, but now our ghrelin is increasing, and our ghrelin is grrr. It's that hunger. You could probably hear my stomach right now because it's lunchtime. And we're feeling hungrier and hungrier, and it can become so overwhelming. Okay. So how do we make this work for us? Here's how we want to do it. We want our deficits to be 8 to 16 weeks max, depending on what the hell you have going on in your life. I take more people out of deficits than I keep them in deficits, because they're either not seeing results, whatever's going on in their life, the travel, the parties, they are not preparing for. They're just falling away from the foundations that we've created. So I'll take them out of a deficit real quick if what we're seeing is not working for us. So 18 to 16 weeks, you always want to look at, what do I have going on in the next 8 to 16 weeks? Do I have a bunch of travel? Do I have a bunch of gatherings and events? Am I going to be eating meals out a ton? If you are, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. You're just going to feel like a failure, right? So depending on your sleep, your stress, your recovery, your schedule, decide what that looks like. Of course, as always, we want to keep our protein high in the deficit. Why? Because we want to preserve muscle mass. You have to realize that being in a deficit, you obviously are losing fat mass. That's the goal. But if we don't keep our protein high, we can lose a lot of muscle, which then only makes you have a higher body fat percentage at a lower weight. So now we're skinny fat, okay? When it comes to training, we want to strength train in a deficit. We don't want to go into a ton of cardio. Why? Because cardio is catabolic. It tends to break down muscle. And as we already said, because you're not getting enough energy, and that's already a threat to you. So keeping that protein high and strength training is incredibly important so we can keep that metabolism up. And when we are in that 8 to 16 weeks, we can do one of many things. We can diet break for a couple weeks to a month and then come back to it. Or if it was a longer prolonged period, we want to always end with a reverse diet and reverse us out of it, a planned reverse diet. I want you to change your mindset because a lot of you live in a deficit. It is not your identity. It is a tool. It is a tool, and is a tool that is used at the right time for the right reasons with an intention to be more restrictive, compromise more, plan the shit out of your life, get in it and out of it as soon as you can. And this is hard, even as a coach, because people do not realize how intentional they have to be in a deficit. We still do them, and they work for our clients when I pound into their brains like, okay, what do you got going on? Look at your schedule. And prior to that deficit, I want to see that they're tracking consistently. I want to see that they're hitting their protein consistently. So I'll talk about that in a sec, but it's a tool. It's not your lifestyle. It's not your identity. Okay, so we've done this 16 weeks. 16 weeks, you've lost what? Anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds, right? Depending on the person. And we're feeling great. This is where we want to take a little break, see? Okay. So this is what is called the reverse diet. The reverse diet is so important because most people will lose the weight and then they will go back to the way that they were eating prior to them losing the weight. What did I tell you guys before? As you lose weight, what decreases? Your resting metabolism. So now the total amount of energy that you're burning in the day is lower than when you started. So when you go back immediately to how you ate before, this is where we see people gain the weight back and then some more, right? So the reverse diet is a gradual calorie increase post-deficit to restore your metabolism, your hormones, and your muscle, okay? So again, the science behind it is after dieting, as we talked about, your metabolism slows down. So this phase helps you upregulate your metabolic rate. So how do we do that? We are going to slowly increase your calories by 50 to 100 calories every 1 to 2 weeks. Okay. So as I increase you 100 calories, you eat that additional 100 calories, which is a cheese stick. People think 100 calories is like a full, meal from McDonald's. No, it's a cheese stick. And we tell the body, okay, you're getting a bit more energy in, right? The body says, great, thank God. And that metabolism rises to meet the amount of fuel that it's receiving. Then after another week, we do the same thing and the metabolism responds. Another week. And for some people, that looks like a 5 to 7 week period. For others, we could keep going. Like I have one of my mommies postpartum and we just keep going. She's done breastfeeding too, but her maintenance right now is through the roof. It's freaking awesome. For those of you who have a lot of muscle mass, your maintenance will also be much higher because muscle is incredibly metabolically, it's a metabolically charged tissue, meaning that it needs a lot more energy to keep around. So the more muscle you have, the higher your resting metabolism, which is fantastic because like someone like me, I can eat around 2,500 calories and not gain weight. But let's get back to the reverse diet. So once we get to a place where You're increasing every week. We're keeping track of your weight and looking at normal fluctuations in weight, but on average, we shouldn't be seeing any weight gain or weight loss. We should just, even actually, the first couple of weeks of your reverse diet, you're still losing weight because technically you're still in a calorie deficit. If that makes sense. Because remember, if your calorie deficit is a 500 calorie deduction from maintenance, when you're still at 250 calories a couple weeks into your reverse diet, that's still a deficit. It's about half a pound of weight loss per week. But we're keeping track of your weight. We're slowly bringing those calories up. And there's a certain point that we're going to get to and say, okay, let's slowly increase by the 50 instead of the 100. And we'll keep track of that weight. If at any time we start seeing that weight increase in a pattern over time, all we have to do is pull those calories back because now we've gone into a slight surplus, okay? What this does, again, is it prevents rapid weight gain, which is what most people do. They just go back to the way that they were eating and drinking and not moving. Beautiful, beautiful listener and viewer, I'm asking you a huge favor. I am doing the American Cancer Society 300-mile ride in the month of October. What this consists of is over the course of the month, I have to ride 300 miles on my bike. And I'm doing this in an effort to help with funding research for cancer treatment. As you guys know, I lost my father to cancer a few months ago, and this is mine and my brother's way of supporting cancer research in hopes that people do not have to go through what we went through as a family. So if you would be so kind, whether it's 50 cents, $1, whatever it is that you can donate, check out the GoFundMe link in my show notes. The GoFundMe goes directly to the American Cancer Society. This is a link that they provided. My tush, thanks you in advance. Now, let's get on with the show. It will help to then support muscle growth over time because now we're, what we'll talk about in the building phase is this is when we build muscle. This is the point once we get to maintenance, which I'm going to talk about next, we restore leptin, right? It balances out. Our thyroid begins to balance out and also our reproductive function. Oftentimes in a deficit, you'll see your period slow. It'll be a bit shorter. You may not get it. If we're not getting our period, that's a no-no. We're in way too low of a deficit. When we are restored, our bodies are firing on all cylinders, as I like to say. So again, add those 50 to 100 calories per 1 to 2 weeks. Again, expect those mild fluctuations. As you continue to increase your calories, you're just going to have a little bit more glycogen and water in your body, and then focus on strength and recovery. The reverse diet is not a time to eat whatever you want. It's not also a time to loosen up on your tracking behaviors. This is one of the things people really struggle for the first 1 to 2 times that they reverse. And that's to be expected because they misconstrued what 500 calories actually looks like. And they don't realize that we're only increasing by 100 calories each week. So I like to talk about it in regards to food. I'll say, okay, first week we're adding a cheese stick, like a string cheese for about 100 calories. Then the next week we're going to add a string cheese and a serving of almonds. And then the next week we're going to have our string cheese, serving of almonds, and an apple with 10 ounces of peanut butter or 10 grams of peanut butter. And then I just add like that because it's easier for them to see, oh, okay, this is not a McDonald's meal. This is a cheese stick, an apple, and some peanut butter. Okay. So reverse diet is not about the scale going down anymore, even though, like I said, it might. It's about your body coming back to life out of this deficit, which drains you. It is not intentional fat loss. It's intentional balance. And I want you to have that shift in your mindset. Okay, so we go through the reverse and then we get to maintenance. Maintenance is eating roughly at what we call your total daily energy expenditure, meaning, again, back to the law of thermodynamics, we have the same amount of calories in as the energy that we are putting out there. The neutral gear, if you will, for your body. We're not accelerating. We're not downshifting. We are just cruising. The science behind this is when we're cruising, we're at homeostasis. Your hormones are stable, your metabolism is stable, your lean mass can increase slightly because you're giving it the fuel that you need, while also fat can kind of stay at bay because we're not in a crazy surplus. And we'll talk about a clean bulk versus a dirty bulk here in a second. Your nervous system can calm down. It says, thank God we're in a feast phase. We're getting the amount of calories we need. We are not stressed. We have less cravings. Our mood improves. Our brain fog goes away. It's fantastic. I love maintenance. I try to live at maintenance for 8 months out of the year, and it's my favorite. So I may be in a deficit like 1 to 2 months and then in a reverse diet or maintenance for the rest of the time. So we want to stay here for those of you who have a lot of weight to lose. Staying at maintenance anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks is a good amount of time, especially after the reverse from a deficit. We're going to still have goals here. We're still tracking our food. This is the point where if I have someone who's been tracking for a while, we may turn to attuned eating. It's much easier to practice attuned eating at maintenance because maintenance is what the amount of calories your body wants, whereas a deficit is not the amount of calories your body wants. So it's easy to attune or tune into your hunger and fullness cues when you're eating at maintenance, right? We're going to track strength. We're going to look at digestion. You might see your bowel movements kind of working a little bit more. Your energy levels are higher and your cycle is more regular at maintenance. This is the time that we are going to train harder. We're going to build metabolic flexibility by building muscle in our body, by feeding ourselves good foods, by practicing eating those pleasurable foods when we want them. And it's a lovely, lovely, lovely place to be. Oftentimes, people do not think maintenance is progress. There's so much progress in disguise in maintenance. It's where your body starts to feel safe enough to change. You're creating almost this new foundation for the next time you want to change your physique because you're creating that metabolic flexibility. You're creating flexibility in your mind. Like, wow, I can eat 2,000 plus calories and not gain weight. Holy shit. Why haven't I been doing this? I love it when our clients, I think of my client, Carolyn, she came to me never resting, eating little. And just this past couple months, her husband had major surgery. Her daughter started school. And she's like, I love that I'm at maintenance. I'm maintaining my weight. And her pictures looked amazing. She had great pictures this last round, which was just last week. And she's eating 2,300 calories a day. And she's working out less. She actually moved from the gym to her home gym because of her circumstances. And she's like, this is fantastic. It's hilarious because then the girlies who used to be the deficit queens, the deficit divas, are now the maintenance mommies. Like, let's go. They don't even want to be in a deficit because they're like, it fucking sucks, right? So, sorry. I got really excited. All right. Last phase is the surplus phase. And this is about growth, okay? Eating above maintenance to intentionally gain lean mass. We're intentionally gaining mass, lean mass, not fat mass. We're intentionally gaining strength and we're boosting our metabolism for our long-term goals. I lied to you when I said I live at maintenance 8 months out of the year. I toggle between maintenance and surplus reverse diet, and then obviously the deficit. Deficit is the shortest amount of time, shortest phase that I'm in, okay? So the science behind it is surplus calories support muscle protein synthesis and anabolic hormones. Your anabolic hormones, of course, are your testosterone, your IGF-1, and your insulin, okay? So maintenance phase, especially when we're eating whole foods for the 80% of what we're intaking, we are building that lean mass. Building requires more energy, right? A lot of people think they're building in a deficit. We're just trying to maintain what we have. When we want to actually build and shape our muscle, we need to eat more. We need to provide the body with that energy to create muscle. Makes sense, right? Like you need more energy to make something. So that muscle protein synthesis, the ability to create that muscle, is incredibly important. Plus, it's going to, of course, help to boost your anabolic hormones. When I have clients who are doing the opposite, they're, eating in a restrictive way, they're not getting enough carbohydrates or fats, the opposite happens. We see their testosterone go and their anabolic hormones are just in the basement, right? The other thing is, again, we're going to, as we're building that lean muscle, our basal metabolic rate is going to increase, like I said about myself. I can eat 2,500, maybe I haven't tried it in a while, 2,800 calories and not gain weight because I have so much muscle mass. Currently, I'm sitting around 20% body fat, and that's because I went through a surplus phase and I built that body fat, then I didn't even go into a deficit. My dad died. So I know, my dark humor around my dad's death. Someone said, "You look so good." I go, "Yeah, my dad died." They're like, "Fuck you," because a friend. Yeah. So I was just naturally in a deficit. I'm still kind of there, even though I'm freaking hungry right now because I've been riding my bike. So I'm at 20% body fat, and my BMR is roughly right now around 2550. Not my BMR. My total daily energy expenditure is around 2550, which is great. Again, the body needs extra energy to adapt and build that muscle, which is incredibly important. We're not just maintaining it at this point. So what we're going to do in a surplus is just add about 200 to 300 calories above your maintenance. In this time, you're going to lift heavy. You always want to focus on progressive overload, but it's going to be even more important in your surplus to lift in those lower rep ranges, that 3 to 5, really utilizing that rest, allowing those extra calories to do what they want to do, to provide you energy, to help you lift heavier, to help you recover. Again, we're going to prioritize that protein. We want to prioritize nutrient-dense foods. When I put people in surplus who are not ready, which I don't normally do, but when I did it in the past, because of course I was a trainer at one point that didn't know this, they'd gain weight. Or even maintenance. I've seen so many clients gain weight in maintenance because they, in their minds, thought I can eat whatever I want. No, that's not how it works. That's still that all or nothing thinking, right? So nutrient-dense foods are incredibly important. We're going to stay in that surplus at a minimum of 3 months. 6 months would be great to see visible change. You should expect 1 to 2 pounds a month of gain if we're doing it right. But also recognize you may gain some body fat. That is where we go back to square one and we then go into a deficit to lose that body fat, okay? For the mindset shift here, we're not getting fatter, right? We're building. We are building this foundation, this beautiful lean body. A surplus is where your metabolism is thriving. So we really want to, being in a surplus really does require a really strong mental capacity, because you are going to see your body get a little thicker. You are going to feel like your clothes are a little bit tighter. But remember, we're going to go into that deficit and that's going to come off. Now, what I don't want you to do in a surplus is get there and be like, I got to get in a deficit. I got to get into a deficit. Deficits aren't security blankets. If it's getting to the point where it's so uncomfortable because you're not eating correctly, if there's a behavior that we need to change, then we need to change the behavior. Your deficit is not a security blanket. So many women use it as a security blanket. I have so many women who will literally be in that perfect fail thinking. They'll be in the fail part of the phase. They're not tracking. They're not doing anything. And the first question they ask me is, should we cut my calories more? No. You need to do what I've told you to do consistently. Right? So many of you use a deficit as a security blanket, and we don't want to do that. Okay, so maintenance, 8 to 12 weeks, right? Rebalance those hormones, stabilize the metabolism. Again, I like to live at maintenance as long as possible. Deficit, 8 to 16 weeks, focus fat loss. Reverse diet again, 6 to 10 weeks, rebuild that metabolism post-diet. And then surplus, 3 to 6 months, focusing on strength, building lean mass, and metabolic capacity, okay? The concept that I like to follow is get my clients to maintenance first. It's much easier to build the foundation in maintenance when we're not trying to play Tetris with our food and our calories. So if I can get a client at maintenance, which everyone kicks and screams to get there, and they're like, I can't eat that much, even though they've been gaining weight for the past whatever amount of time, and they're like not considering that they have been eating that much. It's just been processed food. You can eat 5,000 calories in processed foods very easily. Maybe not 5,000, 3,000 for sure. So slowly helping them get to that place. And there's a way that I do that. You can create volume, or you could create more calories in your food without creating a lot of volume. That's where your healthy fats come in. That's where subbing things out from like cauliflower rice to like regular rice. That's where going from like a non-fat Greek yogurt to a full-fat Greek yogurt, like very easy swaps. I'm going to do an episode on swaps. It's on my list, so stay tuned. Okay, start at maintenance. We're going to build a foundation of tracking consistently, hitting our protein targets consistently, getting into a routine with our strength training and our steps. We're going to begin to work on the mindset challenges. And also I'm going to learn you so that I can understand what potential challenges might come into the deficit phase. And we're going to get in front of them. Okay. We're going to sleep 7 to 9 hours. We're going to manage our stress and drink some water, which I need right now. I'm not drinking any water today. Then when you're ready and your schedule allows, we go into that deficit. We stay there for a while. If at any point we're starting to see that this just isn't working for us, we will pull you out of it. At any point you have a vacation or something, we can use that as what we call a diet break, an intentional maintenance for a short amount of time, and then come back to the rest of the deficit. Once we are about 16 weeks in, we're going to reverse diet, live at maintenance. Not every person will go into a surplus. Usually my more advanced clients are ready to do that. But then we live at maintenance for a couple of months and we wash, rinse, and repeat. So that's that. So if you're somebody who's never given your metabolism permission to eat more, to feel better, to stabilize, it will never trust you to burn the fat that you want, right? We want to, using this phase style of eating and training will help you feel your best and look your best. I promise. Yes, it takes, well, no, people think it takes a longer time to get to the end result, whether that's, fat loss or a certain muscle mass. This is the easiest way to get there, right? Because again, like I said in the beginning, you could think that you're in a fat loss phase for a long period of time, but you're not actually there because you're just in it too long. So common fears, let's talk about them again. Eating more means I'll lose control. If you're working with me, I'm going to understand where that comes from, understand how we can create a true sense of control, and obviously give you the nutritional habits so that you feel more in control of your food. If I stop dieting, I will lose progress. No. Stopping dieting actually, especially if it's been prolonged dieting, is keeping you from losing the muscle that you've gained, keeping you from going into metabolic adaptation, right? So this is actually adding to your progress. It just looks differently. And living in a surplus does not mean you're going to get fat. It just means we are building a strong base of muscle underneath, yes, a layer of fat that eventually we will come off in a fat loss phase. So food is not the enemy, and consistency is. Each phase is a skill, not a test of your worth. The goal is a body that can handle more life, not less food. So we love that. All right. So I want you to identify which phase that you should be in right now. Where are you at? How long have you been here? And do we need to get the fuck out? Now, if you're at maintenance and you're like, I love being at maintenance, then live at maintenance. But if you have goals that we're trying to achieve, realizing where you need to be for those goals, your fat loss phase is where we're going to lose the fat on your body. You can't intentionally lose from a specific area. You're just going to lose fat. And you usually know by this age, like where you're going to lose fat first. So if you want a smaller waist, you go into a fat loss phase. If you want a bigger ass, you go into maintenance and surplus because you build there. Got it? Both don't happen in the same. That's something that people don't realize. And also, please remember, fat tissue and muscle tissue are two different tissues. They're not the same. Okay. So where have you been? If you've been dieting for years, the next level is not another deficit. It is reversing out of that. It's getting into maintenance. It's getting your body to just chill out. The real flex isn't eating less. It's learning to do this, to handle the mindset shifts, the nutritional shifts, the movement shifts that come with it, and kind of just rotating these phases throughout your year. So if this is something you're like, oh my gosh, I need all of these, I need so much help on this. This is where one-to-one coaching comes in. I have worked with thousands of women across the globe, helping them go through each of these phases. I have been doing this since 2010, over 15 years of working with women just like you. So if you're interested in our group coaching or our one-to-one program, let's set up a clarity call. You get to chat with me directly, and we will see if this is the program that is going to help you get to where you need to be. Remember though, we're doing it in the smartest way, not the hardest way, which is the way you're doing it now. Other than that, I want to remind you guys of the American Cancer 300-mile ride for cancer research. If you're interested in donating to my GoFundMe, which goes straight to the American Cancer Society, please check out the show notes below. If you haven't already, subscribe, follow, review us, and share this podcast with anyone in your little girly circle that may need to hear it. And other than that, I'm going to leave you the same way I do all the time, reminding you that what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Goodbye.